Before you scroll away, ask yourself one serious question. Do you believe that truth always sets you free? Do you think honesty always earns respect? Do you trust that being authentic will protect you from betrayal? If you nodded yes, then you are already trapped in one of the greatest illusions humanity has ever created. Because the reality is far more complex, and far more dangerous, than you've been told. For centuries, people have been taught that truth, honesty, and authenticity are the highest virtues, that if you live by them, the world will reward you with respect, love, and loyalty. But history, psychology, and real human behavior prove the opposite. Blind truth does not liberate you, it enslaves you. Raw honesty does not always earn you respect, it often gets weaponized against you. And unchecked authenticity doesn't protect you, it exposes your deepest vulnerabilities to people who know exactly how to use them. Think about it. How many people have lost careers because they spoke the wrong truth at the wrong time? How many relationships have been broken because someone confused honesty with pouring out every thought without strategy? How many leaders in history were destroyed not because they lacked vision, but because they revealed too much, too soon, to the wrong audience? The uncomfortable truth is this: honesty is not automatically a virtue, it is a tool. And like every tool, it can either build your future or destroy it, depending on how you use it. In this video, I will reveal the shocking costs of blind truth, the traps of unchecked honesty, and most importantly, how to master truth strategically, so that it becomes your shield, your weapon, and your greatest source of power in a world that rewards perception more than reality. Human beings are raised with the idea that truth is absolute, that it is unchanging, pure, and universal. But when we step into the real world, we realize that truth is not a single, permanent reality, it is perception, shaped by culture, by perspective, and by power. What is considered truth in one society can be rejected as falsehood in another. What one era calls wisdom, another era calls ignorance. Even in personal life, truth is not constant, it shifts depending on context. Psychology calls this confirmation bias, the tendency of people to accept as truth only what aligns with their existing beliefs. This means your truth may be real to you, but useless, irrelevant, or even threatening to someone else. That is why exposing absolute truths often creates conflict rather than resolution. Think of history's great thinkers, Socrates, Galileo, or even modern whistleblowers. Their truths were not lies, but society was not ready to receive them. And so those truths became punishments rather than liberations. The lesson here is clear: truth may exist, but its power depends not on its purity, but on how it is received. To believe in absolute truth without understanding perception is to live in naivety. The wise do not throw their truths recklessly into the world, they measure, they time, and they deliver only what can be absorbed. Because in a world ruled by perception, truth is not a light that shines equally on everyone, it is a fire that can illuminate or burn, depending on how it is carried. In the modern age, be yourself has become a golden mantra repeated in schools, workplaces, and even social media culture. On the surface, authenticity sounds liberating, a promise that if you show the world your real self, you will find acceptance, respect, and love. But the reality is far more complicated. Authenticity, when practiced without boundaries, becomes a trap that exposes you to judgment, exploitation, and rejection. People often forget that society does not reward the full truth of who you are, it rewards the version of you that aligns with its own expectations. When you reveal your insecurities, struggles, or unpopular opinions under the banner of being authentic, you open yourself to criticism that can permanently harm your reputation. Employers may see you as unprofessional, friends may label you as weak, and strangers may use your authenticity as evidence against your competence. The irony is that the more authentic you are, the more vulnerable you become, because you are giving away the very raw material others can use to define and limit you. Even psychology warns against radical authenticity. Studies on social perception show that humans are constantly evaluating others not by who they truly are, but by how effectively they manage impressions. Authenticity may feel morally right, but impression management is what determines influence and success. History proves this again and again. Leaders who revealed their true doubts lost their armies, thinkers who exposed radical ideas before the world was ready were silenced, and countless individuals have lost opportunities simply because they were too authentic in the wrong moment. The lesson is not to fake yourself or to abandon authenticity, but to recognize that authenticity must be strategic. Show enough of yourself to build trust, but never so much that people can control or dismiss you. True power lies in selective authenticity, the art of revealing only the parts of yourself that strengthen your image, while keeping the rest protected. In a world that thrives on perception, authenticity without wisdom is not freedom, it is self-sabotage. Truth is often described as pure and powerful, but when delivered without strategy, it becomes reckless and destructive. Imagine walking into a battlefield with the world's strongest weapon, but firing it blindly without aim. You might hit your target, but you are just as likely to destroy yourself in the process. That is exactly what happens when people speak the truth without considering timing, audience, and context. A harsh truth spoken in anger can end years of trust in a relationship. An honest criticism voiced in public can humiliate rather than help. A truth revealed too early in a business deal can kill opportunity before it ever takes root. The core problem is that people assume truth has universal value, but in reality, truth only has power when it is framed correctly. History shows countless examples: leaders who revealed their real intentions too soon and were overthrown, inventors who shared their discoveries without protection and had them stolen, or whistleblowers who told the truth but were destroyed because they lacked strategic backing. Even in daily life, people confuse honesty with blurting out whatever comes to mind, forgetting that communication is not just about expressing truth but about achieving outcomes. Psychology supports this. Persuasion and influence depend not only on what you say but how, when, and to whom you say it. Truth spoken at the wrong time or in the wrong way does not enlighten, it alienates. On the other hand, truth delivered with precision can shift minds, inspire change, and build unshakable credibility. The difference lies in strategy. Strategic truth means you measure the impact before you speak, you understand the readiness of your audience, and you align your honesty with the results you want to create. Blind truth seeks validation, strategic truth creates transformation. And that difference determines whether your words become seeds of growth or weapons of destruction. Transparency is often praised as the foundation of trust. Leaders are told to be fully transparent with their teams, partners are encouraged to be transparent in relationships, and individuals are advised to live transparently to avoid hypocrisy. At first glance, this sounds noble and even empowering. But when examined closely, raw transparency is far more costly than people realize. The truth is, human beings do not always value full openness, they value the illusion of clarity that suits their comfort zone. When you practice raw transparency, you reveal not only your strengths but also your weaknesses, uncertainties, and unfinished ideas. To the wrong audience, this does not build trust, it signals incompetence. A transparent leader who admits every doubt can lose authority, because people equate certainty with strength. A transparent employee who shares every mistake can unintentionally reduce their credibility, even in personal relationships. Being transparent about every thought and feeling can overwhelm, hurt, or even push people away, because most people are not equipped to handle unfiltered honesty. Psychology explains this through the concept of cognitive dissonance. when people are confronted with truths that clash with their worldview, they experience discomfort and react by rejecting the source of the truth rather than embracing it. In other words, your transparency often turns you into the problem, not the information you share. History also teaches this lesson. Visionaries who revealed too much about their radical ideas before society was ready were exiled, silenced, or even executed. Their transparency did not accelerate acceptance, it triggered fear and resistance. The modern world is no different. Social media is full of people who overshare under the banner of being transparent, only to face cancellation, ridicule, or exploitation. The lesson here is not to lie or to hide behind masks, but to understand that transparency is effective only when it is measured and intentional. True trust is not built by exposing everything, it is built by consistently delivering value while revealing only what strengthens your credibility. Transparency without limits is like leaving the doors of your house wide open. You might look honest, but you also invite thieves. Real wisdom lies in choosing which parts of yourself to make visible, and which to keep protected, not out of fear but out of strategy. Because in a world that thrives on perception, raw transparency is not purity, it is self-destruction disguised as virtue. Truth is often seen as neutral, something that simply is. But in human society, truth is never neutral, it is always a tool, and often a weapon. The moment you speak a truth, it enters the battlefield of perception, interpretation, and power dynamics. Enemies, competitors, and even close friends can twist your truth, take it out of context, or reveal it selectively to damage your reputation. Consider how gossip works. Most gossip is not a lie, but a distorted truth told with malicious intent. A single sentence you said honestly can be repeated in a different tone, in a different setting, and suddenly it becomes evidence against your character. History is filled with examples of truth weaponized, politicians destroyed by words they once spoke honestly, leaders discredited by truths revealed at the wrong time, and ordinary people publicly shamed because their private truths were exposed. In workplaces, colleagues use selective truths to undermine rivals, leaking only the details that serve their agenda. In personal relationships, partners use past confessions during conflicts, not to resolve issues but to gain emotional advantage. Even entire societies have seen truths weaponized. Whistleblowers who revealed corruption were branded as traitors, not because they lied, but because the truth they carried threatened powerful interests. Psychology explains this through framing theory. People do not respond to truth itself but to the way truth is presented. A truth framed positively builds trust, the same truth framed negatively destroys it. This means that the truth itself has no power unless you control its frame. The lesson is clear: if you reveal truths without considering how they can be reframed by others, you hand them a weapon they can turn against you. This is why wise leaders, thinkers, and influencers reveal truths selectively, strategically, and with control over the narrative. Truth, when managed correctly, becomes your shield and your sword. But unmanaged truth is a weapon waiting to be stolen and used against you. In a world where perception shapes reality, the question is not whether your truth is real, it is whether you control how it is used. One of the most dangerous traps surrounding truth and honesty is the illusion of moral superiority. People are taught from childhood that being brutally honest makes them virtuous, noble, even morally higher than others. At least I'm honest, they say, as if that alone justifies whatever damage their words may cause. But honesty does not automatically equal morality, nor does it make you wiser or better. In fact, blind honesty often masks arrogance, insensitivity, and a lack of emotional intelligence. When someone prides themselves on always speaking the truth no matter what they are really saying is that they value their need to express over the impact their words have on others. Psychology calls this a form of self-justification, where people use honesty as a shield to avoid responsibility for the harm they cause. Consider how often harsh words are defended with, "I was just being honest." In reality, such statements are less about integrity and more about ego. They disguise cruelty as truth and self-righteousness as morality. History shows us countless examples: reformers who exposed truths without strategy and were destroyed, leaders who believed their blunt honesty made them morally untouchable but ended up alienating allies, and ordinary people who lost relationships because they believed truth was more important than empathy. The real problem is that honesty, when seen as a moral weapon, becomes self-serving. Instead of being used to uplift, guide, or protect, it becomes a way to prove superiority, silence others, and elevate one's own ego. True morality does not lie in the act of being honest, it lies in the wisdom of how honesty is applied. A compassionate truth, delivered at the right time, with the right tone, can heal wounds and strengthen trust. But a careless truth, spoken for the sake of pride, can leave scars that last forever. The illusion of moral superiority blinds people to this difference. They believe they are virtuous while in reality, they are destructive. The lesson is simple yet profound: honesty without empathy is brutality, and brutality disguised as virtue is the most dangerous form of arrogance. To rise above this illusion, one must see honesty not as a badge of morality but as a responsibility, one that demands wisdom, timing, and compassion. Only then does truth become a force of real integrity rather than an excuse for ego. If blind honesty weakens you, then silence is its opposite, one of the most underestimated yet powerful strategies in human interaction. Silence is not emptiness, it is control. It is the space where you decide what to reveal and what to protect. In a world obsessed with constant expression, where everyone feels the need to voice every opinion, every emotion, every detail, silence becomes a weapon of discipline. Psychology confirms this: people are naturally uncomfortable with silence, so when you remain quiet, they project their own assumptions, often revealing more than they intended, while you conserve your strength. Silence protects you from saying words that can be twisted. It prevents you from exposing truths that others can weaponize. It gives you time to observe, analyze, and prepare, while those who rush to speak often reveal their weaknesses. History provides powerful examples: diplomats who negotiated peace not by shouting their truths but by withholding them until the right moment, leaders who maintained authority by saying less and allowing mystery to amplify their power, and thinkers who shared their ideas only when society was ready, ensuring survival where raw transparency would have caused ruin. Even in personal life, silence often speaks louder than words. A pause in an argument can dismantle hostility more effectively than 1,000 truths. A refusal to respond to provocation can frustrate manipulators who rely on your reactions. Silence is not cowardice, it is strategy. It allows you to filter your truth, choose your timing, and control the narrative. But silence must be intentional, used with clarity, not avoidance. Avoidance creates confusion, while strategic silence creates power. The lesson is clear: you do not need to reveal every truth to prove your integrity. Sometimes the most powerful statement is the one you choose not to make. In a world where people are destroyed by their own words, silence is not weakness, it is armor. It is the discipline that transforms truth from a liability into a weapon of influence. When used wisely, silence turns you into a figure of strength, mystery, and authority, while those addicted to blind honesty remain predictable and vulnerable. Truth in itself is not power. It becomes power only when it is mastered, refined, and strategically directed. Just as fire can burn or illuminate depending on how it is contained, truth can destroy or elevate depending on how it is used. The mistake most people make is believing that truth has inherent virtue, that simply speaking it will bring justice, respect, or liberation. But history and psychology reveal otherwise. What separates the wise from the naive is not whether they value truth, but how they wield it. The powerful understand that truth is a resource, and like all resources, it must be managed. Sometimes it must be revealed fully, sometimes partially, and sometimes not at all. Leaders who survive and shape history are not those who speak every truth, but those who release the right truth at the right time, framed in the right way. Consider great visionaries, they never revealed their ultimate plans at once. Instead, they released truths like steps on a staircase, guiding others gradually toward acceptance. Too much too soon would have triggered resistance. Too little too late would have killed momentum. Their mastery was balance. Psychology supports this principle. People accept truths only when they are emotionally and cognitively prepared for them. This means that truth is not about accuracy alone, it is about delivery. In personal life, this mastery translates into choosing honesty that heals rather than honesty that harms, sharing parts of yourself that build trust while protecting parts that secure your strength. In leadership, it means shaping narratives, using silence when necessary, and unveiling truth in ways that mobilize rather than divide. The ultimate power lies in transforming truth into a tool of influence, a force that aligns your integrity with your strategy. Truth without strategy is noise, truth with strategy is transformation. The final lesson is this: do not abandon truth, but do not worship it blindly either. Learn to hold it, shape it, and release it with wisdom. Because in a world where perception often defines reality, those who master truth do not merely survive, they lead, they influence, and they create the future.